Hello folks, welcome to Mining Much and Happy New Year. We begin this year with a very important topic. You know, as miners, we have to keep finding new mineral deposits, but it's quite a challenge. So I have invited Ricardo Valls from Toronto. He will discuss the topic, where to find your next deposit. So we welcome Ricardo.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, Ricardo.
Happy New Year, everybody. Yes, let me start by sharing my screen. So here we go.
Yes, go ahead.
Where can you find your next deposit? We need to think outside the box for this one. My name is Ricardo Valls. I graduated from INCRI in Moscow in 1983. I'm a professional geoscientist registered in the province of Ontario, and I'm also a qualified person. I'm the author of several books on geology, quality assurance and quality control, and machine learning and artificial intelligence. And if you want a copy of this presentation, just drop me an email at valsvg@gmail.com. Now, a few weeks ago, I presented another PowerPoint presentation about how to discover your next deposit using linear meta-analysis. You can see a link here to that presentation. Today, we're going to talk about where you can find your next deposit, not how. And for that, I will strongly recommend you to have a look at this book, Geological Method in Mineral Exploration and Mining. I put a link here to get the book from Amazon.com. The author is Marjorie Banks. He's an Australian geologist, and I strongly recommend this book. It's very modern and it's full of good ideas, many of which I used to make this presentation. So you probably hear people saying, well, all the big deposits have been discovered already, so there is nothing else to see here. And you have the video of the naked gun.
Here, please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
Nothing to see here. Move along. It's very nice. Let's see some of the factors responsible for recent discoveries. First of all, people search in unexplored areas, be it the jungle, underwater, in the middle of the desert. That is a good place to find a new discovery. Second factor would be to investigate weak anomalies or atypical mineral indicators that were previously ignored by the professionals doing the work. Maybe a new paper that explains the association between typical minerals with the mineralization that you're looking for. The third factor is the expansion of known deposit, and this is done basically by out-step drilling. You have the mine and you just drill around it with the hope that you will find some buried or blind ore body close by. As you know, there is a saying that the best place to look for a mine is next to a mine, so look around. Another factor was a new geological model for the existing data. So comes in a new geologist with a new interpretation, and you have a new model, and that new model will allow you to make a discovery. And finally, chance is always part of the geological work. And you probably heard the stories of the student that was doing some sampling on limestone, and he called the lab, And he asked, well, I have some samples here. What kind of analysis I should make? And he didn't explain that these were limestone. The lab would say, well, you can order multi-element analysis and fire assay, which he did. And when the results came back, they found gold. And that's how the Carlin type of deposit in limestone was discovered. Or even more to the chance, a dentist was driving his car in California many years ago, and he lost control of the vehicle. He came out and he saw a seepage of oil coming out from the rocks. So that was an ex-oil deposit there. So the chance is still a factor responsible in recent discoveries. Now, there are opportunities for new discoveries. And one of these opportunities is access to new information, being your own information or public information. And there are many places like here in Canada, the Geological Survey of Canada have published many information for free or very low cost. There was a program called LithoProp many years ago that covered the whole country with stream lake sediments, geophysics, etc. Other countries like Mexico or many countries in Europe, they do have a wealth of information available to the public. I remember when I worked the first time in Armenia and I visited the geological fund and I found 50, 60 years of Russian geological reports gathering dust there. Nobody used them. And it was a wealth of information that saved the company that I was working for millions of dollars and many months of work. So check your information. A discovery in a nearby area is also a good indicator. I remember many years ago I was working in Argentina in the province of San Juan at the border with Chile. Well, in Chile they made a big discovery of a deposit that was across the mountains. So I knew I was in the right area. Very important is to get experience visiting other deposits, and ideally it would be great if you could travel around the world and visit all type of deposits. Usually that's not a possibility, but there is an option. For example, here in Canada in March we have the PDAC or PDAC, Prospector Development Association of Canada, one of the largest mining meetings in the world, and they have a section called the Core Shack, where every company comes with their core and they show it to you, and you have an incredible opportunity of visiting deposits from all around the world, being in Toronto. And this is not the only big mining company, it's the one that I go every year. And I really recommend that you visit it and spend several hours there. It's the only chance you will have to learn about so many different deposits. And they bring, of course, the best core. So it's really a good learning experience. The new technologies. For example, it's already passed many years, but when the MMI was discovered, it was a great tool of exploration in Australia. More recently, we have enzyme leach, which for me is the best geochemical system method to explore. And we constantly get new advantage in geophysics. But also, there are technologies that are considered academic, like, I don't know, isotopic analysis or fluid inclusions, that have a place in the industry. And it's our job to bring that academic technique into the field, and that will help us with our new discoveries. And finally, we have the political and or economical changes. And this works in both directions. You may be in a place where previously the governor was not pro-mining, and then there was a change. Something happened, like for example, like that in Ecuador, where they open the borders and say, well, we want investment. There are countries like Guatemala that in their constitution they have written that they are pro-mining. Again, there are places where you were there and then suddenly there was a change of the political government and they are now against mining. Or sometimes it's not the complete country, it's just a province. Well, you need to be aware of that. And also, regrettably, the economic changes affect geology very much. When India announced it several years ago that they will put a cap on the amount of gold that they're going to buy, the gold price went down. When the Chinese said that they're going to need more copper, then the price of copper went up. So you need to be aware of these changes and react accordingly. Now, you really need to be a critic, okay? Somebody tells you, well, this area is not prospective because it's covered by rocks X. Well, first of all, sometimes the geology was not done properly, or let's say there are errors in the geological map. And I have an example of this in my own experience. In places, the geology was done, the regional geology was done based on the interpretation of satellite or aerial photos because the country was at a war, etc. I have the example in Colombia. There is a place that in the map you can see a big area of alluvial conglomerates next to a river. I mean, it was understandable that you may have this kind of alluvials conglomerate there. But when we visited the area, it was not alluvial conglomerate. It was an hydrothermal explosive breccia with copper mineralization on surface. So it pays to check. Don't take the area is not good for an answer. Just check always. The other question is, well, the area has been explored to the yin yang. There is nothing else more to see here. Again, I have a personal experience working in Quebec. There was an area that was, the half of the property was covered by sand, you know, like alluvial sand, and it was not explored. And the company has bought some satellite images of the whole area, which include the sand banks. And I noticed that from the sand, I was getting a very good, very strong indication of a porphyritic alteration signature. And the company was doing an aerogeophysical survey at the time, and I convinced them to expand into the area. And all and behold, they got a beautiful geophysical signature from below the sand. So, and again, when I was discussing this with the company, the local geologist said, oh, we have explored this thing, we have walked this thing, there is only sand. Well, you just walk on top of the sand. This is a signature from below the sand. Basically, the company did the drilling and they discovered this ore body there. This one, the area is full covered by licenses. This one is more complicated, and it's true that some places, I mean, you go to Dominican Republic, there's probably not 1 square centimeter that is not covered by a license. But there are always things that you can do. For example, if you are interested in specific area, you have information your own, or you find out information, or you have an idea that this area here could be good, well, you can always talk to the owner and see if he will sell or do a joint venture or whatever. You can discuss with the owner. Especially in third world countries, you need to understand that many of the owners of the licenses, they have the license just for speculation. They will never do any geological work. They just hope that there will be something in their license that somebody will come and offer them money for their license. So that's one option. There are other places where, for example, in Chile, you can go and you can make an application on an area that already had an application, but the owner of that area have not paid for the land. They have not done any work at all in many years. So the government contact this owner and say, well, unless you paid and do work, we're going to give this license to this other guy that is paying. So that's one thing. Another option that you can explore, maybe the license that exists is not for the kind of mineral that you're looking for. For example, there may be a license for limestones, and you're interested in the potential of a kaolin, that's gold, so you can have an application on a different mineral. There are places, and I really don't like this, but there are places where you can have what is called the horizontal applications. That means that you may have a license from 0 to 100 meters, a different license from 100 meters to 300 meters, and a different license from 300 meters to 500 meters. This usually doesn't work, and at the end you really need to consolidate all these things into one block. So the fact that the area is covered by license is a difficulty, but it's not unsurmountable, and you can always talk. You can always try to figure out, how to get there. Well, we do not have a geological model that works in the area, so let's don't waste time here. Okay, this is one of the best opportunity that you have, because sometimes the geological model is incorrect, like I was telling you before. Well, the mapping was done based on aerial photo, and they thought that the material that they were looking at was an alluvial conglomerate, and it was not. It was an hydrothermal explosive breccia with mineralization. So having the correct geological model is an opportunity. The other thing that I always try to do when I get to a new area is to do the geological evolution, what is called the paleogeological reconstruction of the area, to see what kind of deposit could have formed in the evolution of the area. And maybe there may exist a type of deposit that formed like at the beginning of the evolution of the deposit, and then the new geological environment, let's say it's just sedimentary unit, will not reflect directly the presence of this type of deposit. So it's very useful to have a good understanding of the geology to figure out what kind of model will work in the area. That is a good opportunity. And finally, the area is protected. Well, that's a big no. It may be environmentally protected, you may have problems with the Aboriginal tribe, a cemetery, etc., etc. My suggestion would be, if you have other areas where you can work, forget this. Go and work in other areas, because working in areas that are protected is always very time consuming. But if this is the only thing that you have, or you know that the area is very prospective, I mean, is worth the time? Well, first of all, figure out what kind of protection you have, because even environmental protection has several levels. You have a park where you cannot do absolutely anything, down to protection of the water basin, which is usually 15 to 30 meters on both sides of the river. So you can, block your exploration work in that area and work in other places. Or sometimes it requires work with a lot of procedures in order to minimize the effect in environment. So figure out, ask what type of control you need to have. And it's not only a good practice, it's human decency to talk to the owners of the land, the Aboriginal tribes, etc., and figure out if there is a way to work with them and in the area in a way that will be respectful and profitable for everybody. Again, if you have other areas where you can work, leave that. So, what will be your action plan? First of all, you need to have an hypothesis. You need to have a task, an objective. Okay, I need nickel deposits, lateritic nickel deposit, for example. That is your task, your objective. And then you need to determine what type of information you will need. For example, for this type of deposit, I need mapping, of course. I need satellite imagery. I will need, let's say, that geophysics will not work very well, but geochemistry, yes, it will work fine. So I'm gonna need to do or to have results from geochemical surveys, etc. So you define what type of information you need, and then you need to explore what are the sources of information that you have at hand. And it's amazing the amount of free information or low-cost information that is available. You just go to the geological fund of the country, or you go to the geological survey. These places have wealth of information, and they will give it to you for free or very, very low cost. I used to say I love to work in Mexico because you go to any of the states and you go to the geological fund and you can buy all the geological map, geochemical data, geophysical data, satellite information. The government has done most of the work, so you can really zoom in the areas that have the most potential. You have a CDAR, where all the companies need to file all their reports. So there's a lot of information there for free. And in general, the internet. Once you have this idea and you have the information, you need to work hard to try to prove that your hypothesis is incorrect. Because in science, and we are scientists, in science, we don't try to prove that we are right, we try to prove that we are wrong. And if we cannot prove that we are wrong, then we assume that we are right for the time being. So you try to prove that your hypothesis is incorrect, and if you can prove that you were wrong, well, generate a new hypothesis if necessary and start the process. And I wish you good luck in your search. There are places where you can find new deposits. Thank you very much for your attention. You can contact me on WhatsApp at 1416-726-7691. My email is valsvg@gmail.com, and I also have a YouTube channel called Geology, and you're welcome to see all the videos there. Once again, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Okay, friends, so I wish you a very happy new year, and don't forget there are many mineral deposits out there waiting to be discovered. And we have to discover, especially the ones that are metals and minerals necessary for helping or tackle climate change. So those critical elements like lithium, cobalt, graphite, etc., and rare earths are much in need this time. So that's mining. Is always a constant work, and we coming together, sharing information, and encouraging people to pursue a career in mining, geology, and so forth. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.